Alright, we're going to do a basic soil mix video and potting up. So first I've got my base soil, and so I'm using this stuff here which is labelled as topsoil, not topsoil, top dress for like lawns and stuff. But the reason I use it is because it's got a fair bit of sand in it. It does have a fair bit of organics, but I'm not really worried about the organics. For now, it's the best I can get. So I do 70 litres of the top dress soil. I do 4.5 litres of this fine zeolite, 2 big handfuls of this gypsum, roughly 14 litres of biochar, roughly 4.5 litres of cow manure compost, or this might be straight cow manure, I can't remember. 1 large handful of volcanic rock dust, and that's just for all the trace elements and stuff over time, slow release. And then it is roughly 35 litres of this scoria, and then 35 litres of this perlite. And so with this mix, I sort of came to the conclusion that the perlite is pretty good for aeration, the scoria is good for anchoring down the plant and drainage, and the organic part of it is just good for holding nutrients, as well as the biochar and the zeolite, holding on to nutrients so we're not leaching too much stuff, and it allows the cactus to absorb as much fertilizer as possible without overdoing it and without leaching fertilizer either. I'm trying my best to learn this stuff, and this is what I've come up with. I'm sure there's more deep information about it, so if you want to know more about it, do research on these materials and you can find out more, because that's all I know. And so I've just been mixing it by hand in this big tub. This has got to be like, I don't know, 200 litres or something big. But it only really gets up to about here or something. But I chuck in my topsoil first, my organic part. Then I mix in all the sort of amendments, the zeolite, biochar, gypsum, cow manure, and the perlite as well, the volcanic rock and all that, and the perlite because it's quite light and it's easy to mix in. Then once I've mixed it in, okay, now this is all mixed in. The only thing that hasn't been mixed in is the scoria, which is quite heavy and hard to mix in, and because of the amount that I'm dealing with here, I have to empty half of this out into a bin, mix in half of the scoria, and then put the second half in, and then mix in the second half of the scoria. And so right now this is quite airy and light, which can still work, but I just find the scoria gives it a lot more density and a bit heavier and anchors it down, because as you know, these cactus get quite tall, they can easily fall over in the winds and all that. And so I want them to be sturdy, growing straight and tall, and not leaning over and falling over. So this helps with that. This is also pretty cheap for me, so that's why I also get it, and helps with drainage and all sorts. So for me it works. So I've sort of split it up as evenly as I can. I then just mix this all up. Alright, now we are fully mixed. And so with a bit of rain and over time, with the soil settling, this is sort of what it's looking like. Which I'm pretty happy with that. It even rained last night and it's not soaking wet, so yeah, no, I'm happy. I was doing a mix without the perlite, and it was 70 litres of scoria, because now I'm doing half, but it was full on 70 litres scoria, and that's what that was looking like, because obviously they're a lot bigger and the perlite's a lot smaller. But that also seems to not be too bad, but it is quite dense. But it doesn't, I don't know, it does feel like the water does go through that not too bad, and it is quite sandy too. So, and I couldn't get perlite at the time, so I had to, and I wanted to get them potted up. I don't have much time or money, so I just got to do it. So pretty much 1, 2, 3 rows, a bit more than 3, maybe 4-ish rows, all with the scoria. And so I won't know what the outcome of that will be until, you know, maybe a full season, and see if it was really bad. Other than that, everything else was the same. It was just 70 litres of scoria instead of 35 and 35 perlite. But some of these look like it's almost just full rock. So, I don't know, we'll see. I know these guys can handle a lot, but yeah. And so I've got all these to be potting up now. These guys have been sitting here for a long time, especially these big trays. And these guys, they've all, like at least 2 years in them. And some of them, like for example, that lot there is boltwood. And I had quite a few containers of boltwood. And like, I'm pretty sure, yeah, this is boltwood here. So these would have been sown at the same time as those, but it makes a huge difference potting. So this is freshly in this pot, but it was in another pot with about 8 others. So it had more room than those trays, but it had already grown to about here, and that there is fresh growth since it's been in this container. So, you know, without potting them up, if you don't pot them up soon enough, it really stunts them. So yeah, I need to get these potted up ASAP. And so next we got this tray to be potting up. Again, this has been here for at least, or in Sydney for at least 2 or 3 years. Let's see what we got. We got Super Pedro cross Trojan Llama. I think these are all Trojan Llamas. Trojan Llama cross Fields. I assume that's Fields Pakanoi. Yeti cross Trojan Llama. Can't remember what Yeti was. Fields cross Trojan Llama. Dan cross Trojan Llama. So a lot of these seem to be maybe Pakanois. Yeti might be a Peruvianus, because in this lot they're quite spiny. So we'll see what happens there. See, how I've sown these is quite difficult, because I've got to be very careful how I separate them to make sure that they're in their groups. Right, so I've gotten the tray off. It's pretty trippy there, if you can see that. So I think what I've done here is I haven't sown, these weren't sown in this tray. They were sown in other containers, and then I had potted them up into the blue tray. And so this lot was in 2 cell sections, and then this lot was also in 2 cell sections, because then once you get to the other side, whoops, well actually, oh no, okay, so you can see the hole there, that's the center, that's the middle. So yeah, this one's pretty difficult. Actually, this side isn't too difficult. So all of that is that, and this tag should be from that across. Let's see if I can. Yeah. Let's see if we can see this. There's a hole right there. I don't know if you guys can, oh, my hand's in the way. Yeah, right there. There's a hole. And that's that hole there in the center bit. Sorry, this is really bad, but anyway, that indicates to me that this lot, stop zooming this in, is with that. This lot is with that. And then I've got to sort out this side. Alrighty, success. We've got them separated. I'm pretty confident. I've got what they are, and now got to separate them. Alright, so we got the field cross Trojan llama, and I like to usually separate them by size. And so these big ones, I'll probably put them in their own individual pot. I'll probably put maybe 2 of them in a 200 ml. These guys, I might clump them together. You know, I'll probably put a few in 140s, and these guys will get clumped together in, I don't know what these ones are, but they're not huge, but they're fairly small. Yeah, and I don't really like to cull too much, but like this guy has some issues. But yeah, this guy he'll just get lumped in with all these guys in one single pot. And you know, I would assume he's not going to make it. You can't see, but yeah, he's got quite a bit of rot going on. Still sort of active, semi-active. If I dried him out, maybe he'd survive. But you know, I've got so many to pot up and so many to look after. I really don't care. If it's not making it through this, well, then it's probably not going to make it when it's an adult. It'll just be weak. I don't know. So at this stage, I don't really care too much about culling because they're going into multiple pots, and if 1 or 2, 3, 4 die, so what? I'm more fussed about once they're bigger. Like when they get to this kind of size, this is where I'm doing culling. And so in a pot, if I get to a point where I'm potting these up, I sort of look around the bases and see if there's any marks. If they've got no marks, if they're healthy otherwise, no problems, well then I keep them, I keep potting them up. But for example, when I was doing the boltwoods, I had so many of them that if something just wasn't growing as good as another one, regardless if it looked fine and healthy, I was chucking it because I just, I don't have time for it. And you know, I got all these, so I got to do it. But yeah, that's the stage where I do the culling because I can see more of the characteristics too. And sometimes as seedlings, you know, one seed might not germinate fast enough because of the conditions. One might get more light than the others, so I like to give them a bit more of a chance. Like for example, this guy down here, let's see if we can, you can see orange spots on him. So, you know, it might be a coincidence, it might be a one-off, but when I pop these guys up, this guy doesn't have any marks on him. He looks quite healthy. Even that smaller guy down there, he doesn't have any marks. He's quite slow growing, but otherwise he's healthy. So I'd probably keep them, and I might get rid of him. It depends if it progresses. Another sign I do like to see is if they're scarring. So, like this guy, Scopulocola, sure, he's had a few fungal marks and stuff, but he's also scarring over and he's healing from it. What I more so worry about is when they get the fungal marks and they just continue to grow. So if that gets worse and not better, well then I'd consider just getting rid of it. But if they have plenty of marks from, like, you know, spines, or I've dropped them, or cuts, whatever, and they're healing really well, I'm thinking, okay, that's a good healthy, that's got good healthy genetics, I'm going to keep it. So, but otherwise, at this point, I'm not really looking too much at traits and characteristics. They're just a bit too small at this stage, so I just sort of pot everything up, unless it's just really bad. Like that I'm not too worried about because it's not taking up much space, but if it was something like this big and I had all fungal spots here, I probably wouldn't bother potting it up. It's yeah, that might be a bit of a waste of time, I don't know. But yeah, so we'll go through the rest of these, and I'm going to pot up these now. Yeah, so I usually like to pick out the biggest guys, the fastest growing, and give them the bigger pot and the most soil, because they will fill it out faster than the other guys. As well, I don't have all the room and all the money and all the time to be putting every single one into a nice big pot like this, which I would like. This is the best pot size for me. But yeah, so I fill up my pot about that much, dig a bit of a hole, stick this guy in. Make sure he's as straight as I can possibly get him. I can always straighten him up when I go to set him down on the ground as well, so I just do as best I can now. But this is not packed extremely tight, but tight enough so that when these grow, I've noticed sometimes I'll pack in one side to have him straight, but I won't pack in the other side, and in the future they start to lean, and I think it's because one side is looser than the other, and like that might be it, I'm not sure. So I just try and pack it evenly all the way around, smooth it over, and he's set. And I try and have them far enough under the soil that they're pretty sturdy. The only problem with that is that there is an increased risk of rotting. And you can see this guy was a little bit taller than this guy. And so you can see how far under the soil I've been putting them. Like I'll probably put, you can see actually this guy's got all those roots coming out. Wow. But I'll probably put him under the soil to about there or something. But yeah, I find it stops them from falling over, stops them from leaning, keeps them nice and straight, sturdy. But like I said, yes, it will increase the chance of rot. But once they're at a certain size, I haven't had any issues. It's just the initial potting up. Got to try and be careful that they don't get too wet for the next month or two. Yeah. Also, another thing to note is another reason why I needed to pot these up ASAP is because they were so stunted, and the soil that I had them in has started to break down and rot, and the roots have started to rot. So this guy really should have bigger roots than it does, but they're all rotted off. And that's due to a ton of rain that we've had. The mix wasn't too bad. It's just I think they were in it for too long, because it had filled out the whole container, but then we had lots of rain. It wasn't able to drain because the roots were clogging up the holes, and it was on a bench, and the soil was, you know, it just wasn't enough drainage, airflow. And like even some of these bigger guys, like this guy, really should have way bigger roots, but he doesn't. So they just need a nice big pot. I mean, that can also be counteractive, because the bigger the pot, if the pot gets drenched with rain, then it's going to stay wetter for longer because it can't absorb the water and can't handle that much. But yeah, I just sort of risk it. I haven't had too many problems with that. I chuck them in and hopefully they root, and majority of the time they're fine. So, but if you want to be super safe, you've got to be sort of careful of that kind of stuff. If you're in a greenhouse, I wouldn't worry about it. But yeah, a lot of these have rotted, and that's why I need to get them out of here and get them into a pot with better aerating soil. And this will be excellent for them. They'll be able to root way better in this. Alright, so we got all the fields cross Trojan llama. And I'm sort of assuming these are all going to turn out to be just some sort of pachynoid looking things. I don't know if they're going to be anything spectacular. Got a bit of rib shifting going on there, likely due to the Trojan llama. Maybe even a touch of variegation there. Wait on. No, you can't see it on the camera. You really can't, but it's there. It might be. It might not be. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, I'm not that hopeful for these guys. I think they'll just be normal pachynoids. Hopefully something cool comes out of it. I'm still interested, even if they don't look that special, I'm still interested in vigor, fast growing, resilience, all that kind of stuff. So I can breed that and cross it into other stuff. But yeah, so I've done some in smaller pots and just grouped them. Big ones into small pots, and then these guys into these. Like I said, I want them to grow as fast as possible. But I don't have unlimited amount of these pots, and I don't have unlimited soil. You know, it all costs money. So I'm doing what I can. Yeah, so I just mix it up, and because I've got this size pots, I've got big ones, and I've got even smaller ones. So yeah, I might call the video there. Otherwise, you know, I'm just going to be potting up these. I'm going to be doing the exact same as I just did. You know, I'm a little excited for some of these. I'm mostly looking forward to the Yeti cross Trojan llama. There's some interesting traits going on there, some spiky stuff. So I think they might turn out to be something nice. This is just one tray of many, but yes, I've gone through my soil mix, gone through how I pot it up, and then I chuck them on my mat area. I'll fertilize them in a few days or so, maybe a week, and hopefully the next growing season we're going to see some real good characteristics and see some good traits.